Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you for all the endless support. Because of you, the channel has officially reached over 4,000 watch hours. That milestone has unlocked some exciting new features: Super Chat, which lets you send highlighted messages during live streams; Super Thanks, where you can show extra support on regular videos with a special highlighted comment; and Super Stickers, which are fun, animated stickers you can send during live chats to stand out and keep things lively. Plus, channel memberships are now available, giving you access to exclusive perks. And who knows, I might even do a members-only live stream sometime soon. I'm incredibly grateful for every like, comment, and view, and I'm so excited for what's ahead. Now, let's get into the video. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Something, something, welcome to the Hotel California. The only song that many people know by the iconic 1970s band, the Eagles. I mean, come on guys, that's not the only song out there, even though it is a classic. The Eagles are my favorite band because their music blends harmony, storytelling, and pure emotion in a way few groups ever have, moving effortlessly from country rock sweetness to sharply written rock anthems that feel timeless. Formed in 1971 in Los Angeles, the original lineup featured Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Leadon, and Randy Meisner, later joined by Don Felder, Joe Walsh, Timothy B. Schmit, building a sound that defined the 70s with masterpieces like Desperado, One of These Nights, and of course, Hotel California. Though the band split in 1980, they reunited in 1994 for the famous Hell Freezes Over tour, continued performing for decades, and carried on even after Glenn Frey's death in 2016, with Deacon Frey and Vince Gill helping keep the legacy alive, proving their lasting impact and musical brilliance. I even had the pleasure of seeing them perform in 2024 in Manchester, UK, along with Deacon Frey, and it was easily the best concert I'd ever seen. The Doobie Brothers opened for them, which was an added bonus, even though Donald Fagen of Steely Dan was the original opener and ended up with an illness. Very sad, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The Eagles' story in the 1970s begins in Southern California, at a time when Los Angeles was becoming the creative center of American rock music. Formed in 1971 in Los Angeles, the band grew out of the city's thriving singer-songwriter and country rock scene, with Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Leadon, and Randy Meisner coming together after working as backing musicians for Linda Ronstadt. Drawing inspiration from country, folk, rock, and the relaxed California lifestyle, the Eagles quickly developed a sound defined by smooth harmonies, melodic songwriting, and vivid storytelling. Their 1972 self-titled debut, Eagles, introduced them to a national audience with songs like Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, and Peaceful Easy Feeling, capturing a sense of open roads and emotional reflection that resonated deeply with listeners. As the decade progressed, the band's ambitions in sound expanded. Desperado, 1973, embraced a Western outlaw concept, while lineup changes, most notably the departure of Leadon and the arrival of Don Felder in 1974, followed Joe Walsh in 1975, pushed the Eagles toward a harder, more electric rock style. This evolution culminated in massively successful albums like One of These Nights, 1975, and Hotel California, 1976, which explored darker themes of excess, fame, and dissatisfaction beneath the polished surface of success. By the late 1970s, the Eagles had become one of the biggest bands in the world, dominating radio, selling out arenas, and defining the sound of the decade, even as internal tensions and constant touring began to take their toll, setting the stage for the conflicts that would eventually end the band at the close of the 1970s. A remarkable run of Billboard Hot 100 hits included Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, Peaceful Easy Feeling, Desperado, Already Gone, Best of My Love, One of These Nights, Lion Eyes, Take It to the Limit, New Kid in Town, Hotel California, Life in the Fast Lane, and Heartache Tonight, many of which reached the top 10 and cemented the Eagles as one of the most successful charting bands of the decade. The 1980s were basically the Eagles' "we're not talking right now" decade, and things got messy fast. After years of fighting, exhaustion, and too many egos in one room, the band officially split in 1980, famously saying they'd get back together when hell freezes over. Spoiler, it eventually did. Each member went their own way. Don Henley became a huge solo star, landing big hits on the Billboard Hot 100 with songs like Dirty Laundry, The Boys of Summer, All She Wants to Do Is Dance, and The End of the Innocents, all over radio and MTV. Glenn Frey also did very well on his own, scoring chart success with The Heat Is On, You Belong to the City, Smuggler's Blues, and Sexy Girl, proving the Eagles weren't just a group effort. Joe Walsh kept being Joe Walsh, releasing fun, wild tracks like A Life of Illusion and reminding everyone he was still one of rock's best guitar players. Timothy B. Schmit released solo music too, though more quietly, while Randy Meisner had some success with Hearts on Fire, and Don Felder worked behind the scenes with songwriting and session work. Even though the band was broken up, Eagles songs never left the charts or radio, with classics like Hotel California, Life in the Fast Lane, Take It Easy, and Desperado staying popular throughout the decade. One of my favorite Eagles songs, New Kid in Town, fits this era perfectly in spirit, even though it came out in 1976. It's literally about fame, being replaced, and the spotlight moving on, which is kind of ironic considering what happened to the band. Other great Eagles tracks that deserve love include Lion Eyes, Already Gone, Tequila Sunrise, Victim of Love, and I Can't Tell You Why. So while the Eagles didn't actually exist as a band in the 1980s, their music, solo hits, and influence were everywhere, proving that even when they weren't flying together, they still soared on their own. And before I jump into the 90s, I apparently need to do what every Eagles fan is legally required to do at some point, explain what Hotel California means to me. Because for some reason, that question follows the song around forever. To me, Hotel California isn't about ghosts, cults, or literal hotels with creepy managers. It's about someone rolling into Los Angeles, chasing fame, money, and a dream that smells way better from the outside than it does once you're inside. The quote-unquote hotel is the music industry, Hollywood, or success itself. Flashy, tempting, and welcoming at first, but slowly turning into a sticky tar pit where you realize you've traded freedom for fame. You can check out any time you like, because walking away sounds easy, but actually leaving means giving up everything you've worked for, and that's the trap. The song feels like a warning, trapped in perfect harmonies and one of the greatest guitar solos ever written, which somehow makes the message even darker. So while everyone else debates secret meanings, demons, or conspiracies, I'll stick with the idea that Hotel California is about getting exactly what you wanted, and realizing too late that it now owns you.
You mentioned Don Henley before you sang that. Do you still see him?
We talk a couple times on the phone every now and then. Now that the Eagles aren't together, it's...
When did you guys finally unplug it?
Well, I think we unplugged it in 1980, but we didn't tell anybody till 1981. We wanted to get a start on our solo albums, you know, so we just
Was it a pleasant experience, the breakup? Was it nasty?
Yeah, it was ugly, David.
Oh, it was ugly?
Yeah, it was brutal.
How long had you guys been together?
9 years,
yeah.
You know, and with, I think with five guys for 9 years. I kind of look at bands like... It's like when doctors get out of college or lawyers get out of college, they always join a law firm or a doctor's. You know, and bands are the same way, I think, for men in their 20s. Mm-hmm. You know, you kind of band together, you're not so sure of yourself. And, you know, now that we're a little older, it seems like a logical progression to sort of set up my own practice.
Yeah, but you guys, you did some damage when you were together, didn't you?
Oh, you mean...
Well, positive kind.
You know, the Eagles had sort of on the surface, I think we looked, you know...
Placid.
Kind of like we were sort of, you know, normal sort of guys.
Yeah.
But
Your
now,
stage
now when you have Joe Walsh in your band, it's a little different. We We used to wreck hotel rooms, in the early days, but nothing like the English bands can do, nothing like The Who and Led Zeppelin. They were really the best at room trash, is what we used to call the art of room trash.
The 1990s were the Eagles' big, okay fine, let's talk again decade, and somehow it worked better than anyone expected. For most of the early 90s, the band technically did not exist, but their music absolutely did. Their greatest hits, 1971 to 1975, kept selling like it was brand new, proving the Eagles were still everywhere, even while pretending to hate each other from a distance. Then, in 1994, the impossible happened. The band reunited for the Hell Freezes Over tour, officially confirming that Hell had in fact frozen over, just enough for Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Joe Walsh, Don Felder, and Timothy B. Schmit to share a stage again. The reunion was a massive success, with sold-out shows, a hugely popular live album, and new songs that actually held their own against the classics. Tracks like Get Over It, which felt like Glenn Frey yelling at the entire modern world, Love Will Keep Us Alive, a softer hit that did very well on the charts, and Hole in the World, all made strong showings on the Billboard Hot 100 and adult contemporary charts, proving the Eagles weren't just a nostalgia act. Don Henley returned as the thoughtful, serious anchor of the band, balancing Eagles' duties with his already legendary solo career. Glenn Frey leaned fully into his role as the band's outspoken leader and occasional comedian, clearly enjoying being back in charge. Joe Walsh continued being Joe Walsh, cracking jokes, shredding guitar solos, and somehow sounding exactly the same as he always had. Timothy B. Schmit quietly did what he does best: sing beautifully, and make everything smoother. Don Felder, while present during the reunion, had growing tensions with Frey and Henley that would later explode, but in the 90s, he was still a key part of the Eagles' sound, especially live. Overall, the decade turned into a huge comeback story. The Eagles went from a band that swore they'd never reunite to one of the biggest touring acts of the 90s, proving that time, money, and a shared love of great harmonies can fix almost anything, at least long enough to sell out arenas again. In the early 2000s, the Eagles were in a strange but impressive place. They were a classic rock band that somehow refused to act old. Their music was fighting for spots on the charts with pop stars and boy bands, but it was still everywhere, specifically on the radio, in movies, in TV shows, and especially in cars driven by people who said things like, "They just don't make music like this anymore." Younger listeners were discovering the Eagles through greatest hits albums, streaming, and their parents' CD collections, and the songs still held up shockingly well. Hotel California, Take It Easy, and Desperado felt just as powerful in the 2000s as they did in the 70s, which is kind of unfair to every other band. Live shows were a huge deal too, with packed arenas full of longtime fans and first-time listeners who only came for one song and left realizing they knew way more Eagles tracks than they thought. Sheesh! I feel like that happens quite often. As for the band members, everyone stayed busy in their own way. Glenn Frey and Don Henley were clearly running the ship, focusing on touring and keeping the Eagles sound tight and polished, while also making sure nothing happened without their approval. Henley stayed serious and thoughtful, always focused on the music and the message, while Frey mixed leadership with humor and the occasional grumpy comment, which fans secretly loved. Joe Walsh continued being the wild card of the group, cracking jokes on stage, pulling wild guitar faces, and somehow aging slower than everyone else. Timothy B. Schmit stayed calm and steady, delivering smooth vocals and quietly holding everything together without asking for attention. Don Felder, meanwhile, was officially out of the band in 2001 after long-running conflicts, later releasing solo music and talking very openly about the split. Altogether, the early 2000s proved that the Eagles weren't just a band from the past, but were a band that survived into the modern world, still filling seats, still sounding great, and still reminding everyone that yes, you really do know more Eagles songs than you think.
when Glenn Frey went into hospital for gastrointestinal tract surgery. He died unexpectedly from complications. Glenn was 67.
You miss him terribly, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still processing. It's going to be processed for a long time now.
Yeah.
Hasn't even been a year yet.
It was so unexpected.
It was. It happened rather suddenly. I mean, there had been some health problems for a while, but we thought they were under control. It just happened quickly.
Today, the Eagles are still flying, even after facing the biggest loss in their history. Glenn Frey passed away in 2016, and it hit fans hard because he wasn't just a band member. He was the Eagles in many ways. For a while, it felt like the end of the road, but the band chose to keep going, not by replacing him, but by honoring him. Glenn's son, Deacon Frey, stepped into the lineup, and yes, that sounds intimidating, but he earned it. Deacon grew up around the band, watched his dad on stage, learned guitar from him, and was basically trained his whole life without realizing it, kind of like an accidental rock education. Alongside Vince Gill, Deacon helps carry the vocals and spirit of the band while keeping Glenn's presence alive, even adding his own style. Don Henley still leads with heart and purpose. Joe Walsh still brings humor and guitar magic. And Timothy B. Schmit still sings like time forgot about him. The Eagles today are less about chasing hits and more about legacy, family, and great music that refuses to fade, proving that even when a chapter ends, the story doesn't have to. And that's a pretty perfect way for the Eagles to keep soaring. Thank you so much for watching. This video took a lot of time to make, so I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And please make sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a future upload. More quality videos like this one coming soon. Once again, I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.